Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Jersey. Today I'm going to show you how we make buttermilk biscuits. Normally I pre-make all the ingredients into jars like this. It makes it so much easier. I will leave the links below if you want to make your own jars. 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and 2 teaspoons of sugar, 3 tablespoons of chilled butter, 1/2 teaspoon or less of salt, 1/2 cup of homemade buttermilk. I will leave the link below how to make it. I will add the baking powder to the flour, the sugar, and now the salt. I also wrap and measure 3 tablespoons of butter, and I keep them chilled in a container in food grade wax paper so it's easy to make a quick batch of biscuits. This is how I always make my biscuits. I pour everything into a mini chopper except for the buttermilk. You want to leave some size bits of butter. Now put everything back into the bowl and add 1/2 cup of buttermilk, and I like to use the end of a wooden stick just to stir it. You are only trying to incorporate the dry ingredients into the wet buttermilk. You want it to look like artisan bread, shaggy. Work very quickly. You do not want the butter to start melting. I usually switch to a silicone spoon to help get all the dough off of the wood in the bowl. This is one of my dehydrator mats. It's made out of silicone, and when I use this, the biscuits never stick. You only need a little bit of flour. Do not use a lot of flour. Scrape everything that's in the bowl onto the mat. It's okay if there's dry pieces. It will get kneaded in, but you need to work fast. You don't want the butter to melt. Sprinkle just a very little flour on top. Let your Silpat do all your work. So each time you open up the Silpat, sprinkle just a little bit of flour if it is sticking. Do not over knead this. You are not making dough. This is biscuit. It is better to leave it on the wet side than the dry side. I am making mini biscuits, so I'm going to use a small cutter. I gauge the cutter to about halfway to 1/3 up. Always dip your cutter in flour. So I am using a well-seasoned cast iron pan. I am not going to grease this. You will have to check see if your pan is well oiled. You may have to add a little oil to it. You will notice that I'm making 2 little biscuits for each biscuit. That is so that you do not have to cut it with the knife. They basically will split down the center so you can put butter on both sides without having to cut it. Something I learned growing up is to never twist your cutter. You may choose to do it, but my grandmother and mother told me never to twist your cutter. And again, I will iterate that it's best to have your biscuits a little on the wet side than the dry side. Today I'm actually going to bake these in a toaster oven at 400 degrees between 10 and 15 minutes. If you're going to use a conventional oven, that will approximately be maybe a few minutes longer. As you can see, this is a very well seasoned pan. They pop right out with no problem. These are still hot, but I'm going to show you how you can just pull them apart to add butter on them. I'm going to go ahead and cut it with a knife just to show you how flaky the inside really is. I have to say, no matter how I bake these, every single time they come out perfect, flaky, moist. I have to compare it to a white cake. That's what it's like. The reason I love this apple skeever pan, it is crunchy on the outside and it steams the inside of the biscuit so it's so moist. And I always have some type of wildlife peeking in my windows when I'm in my blogging room. Thank you so much if you have made it this far. Let's grow our YouTube channel together. Please share, like, and give a comment. Thank you so much. And son, this is dedicated to you so you don't have to keep asking me how to make biscuits.